It was the headline no one ever thought they'd see until today.
Okay.
Under the blinding lights of an FBI press conference, the world stopped breathing. The spokesperson's voice trembled, his eyes fixed on the paper in front of him, as if saying the words would burn him alive. We confirm Bill Cosby planned the murder of Malcolm Jamal Warner. Silence, not the gentle kind, but the heavy, suffocating kind that crushes your chest. Reporters froze. Camera shutters stopped. Outside, a crowd of thousands went still like statues, carved in grief. And in a small living room miles away, Pamela Warner, a mother, a fighter, and now a witness to her worst nightmare, collapsed to the floor. In her shaking hands, she clutched a faded photograph of Malcolm as a boy, smiling at the camera, missing front tooth and all. Through cracked lips came the only word she could manage. "I told them my son didn't die by accident. They killed him." The FBI read the leaked text messages out loud. "It's happening. Don't let him leave Costa Rica. Take care of it quietly." Each line landed like a dagger in the hearts of everyone listening. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't rumor. These were the last invisible chains that had dragged Malcolm to his death. Then the screen lit up. Malcolm's face appeared, pale, tired, eyes glassy with fear. His voice was barely a whisper. "Mom, if you're watching this, I'm not coming home. Don't believe the news. This won't be an accident. It's a setup." Gasps ripped through the room. Some reporters wept openly. Outside, the crowd began to chant his name, and in that moment, the truth shattered the silence forever. It was the kind of news that doesn't just break, it shatters you. The kind that takes your breath away and leaves your heart pounding in your ears. The FBI press room was silent, except for the hum of cameras. Behind the podium, an agent gripped the sides as if bracing himself against an earthquake. His voice cracked as he spoke. "We confirm Bill Cosby planned the murder of Malcolm Jamal Warner." The room didn't gasp. It didn't erupt. It froze for a few long seconds. Nobody even moved. The words hung in the air like smoke, thick and choking, settling over every stunned face. Outside, on the steps of the building, hundreds of people who had gathered for updates suddenly understood that this wasn't going to be another press conference with vague answers. This was the truth, raw, ugly, and impossible to unhear. And far away in a quiet neighborhood in New York, Pamela Warner's knees buckled. She didn't scream, she didn't cry, she just fell. The photograph of her son slipping from her trembling hands. In it, Malcolm was 7 years old, missing a tooth, grinning so wide you could feel the sunshine in his smile. Pamela picked it up, her voice breaking into a whisper. I told them my son didn't die by accident. They killed him." The FBI didn't hold back. On the projector screen behind the agent, 3 text messages appeared, recovered from Cosby's own private phone. The first, "It's happening." The second, "Don't let him leave Costa Rica." The third, "Take care of it quietly." Every word felt like a bullet. They weren't vague warnings or concerned check-ins. They were orders, cold, precise, deadly. Pamela sat, watching the live stream from her couch, her hand pressed hard over her mouth. Tears slid down her cheeks, but she didn't wipe them away. For years, she had begged for the truth, been told to let it go. Been called crazy by strangers who had never seen the way Malcolm looked at her the night before he left. "I'll be back soon, Ma," he'd said, but his eyes had been different. Then came the moment that broke whatever was left of her heart. The lights in the press room dimmed. The screen changed. And there he was, Malcolm. Not the confident, charming man the world knew, but a man stripped bare by fear. His skin looked pale, his hair slightly unkempt, his eyes darting off camera, like someone was there watching. His voice was almost a whisper. "Mom, if you're watching this, it means I didn't make it. Don't believe the news. This won't be an accident. It's a setup. I know too much, and they know I'm done staying quiet." His voice cracked on the last word, and in the press room, someone audibly sobbed. Pamela clutched her chest. This was the confirmation she never wanted but always feared. She had told people the coroner's changing reports, a missing hotel footage, the sudden arrival of Cosby's lawyers in Costa Rica days before Malcolm's death. But no one wanted to believe it. Now, the proof was playing on every screen in America. The footage cut to black, but the silence didn't last. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed wildly, and somewhere outside, a chant began. Justice for Malcolm. Justice for Malcolm. The FBI agent cleared his throat, trying to study his voice. These messages, this video, are part of an active federal case. We have reason to believe Malcolm Jamal Warner's death was not only planned, but carried out with the intention of silencing him. Pamela's mind spun back to 2 weeks before Malcolm died. He had called her late at night, his voice low. "Ma, if something happens to me, don't believe what they say. Keep asking questions." She had laughed nervously at the time, told him to stop, scaring her. But now those words were all she could hear. In the hours after the press conference, the internet exploded. Photos of Cosby and Malcolm, once celebrated as a father-son duo on screen, flooded social media. But the captions had changed. No longer family forever or TV's favorite duo. Now they read, predator and prey. He didn't drown. He was drowned. Old co-stars began posting cryptic messages. Some saying they knew there was tension, but never imagined it went this deep. Anonymous insiders claimed Malcolm had been working on a memoir, one that detailed not just what he saw on set, but the dark network that protected Cosby for decades. That same night, murals appeared in cities across the country. Malcolm, with angel wings, Malcolm breaking chains. One had bold red letters across his chest. "They tried to silence me. They failed." Pamela sat alone in her kitchen, the TV blaring, yet somehow feeling miles away. She thought about the last hug she gave her. Son, the cologne he wore, the way he always turned back one last time to wave when he left. And now all she had left was a voicemail. She couldn't bring herself to play again, but she also knew something else. This wasn't the end. The FBI had confirmed the plot. The world knew the truth. And for the first time in years, Pamela felt something. She thought she'd lost. Not peace, not closure, but fight. She wiped her tears, straightened her back, and whispered to the photograph on the table. "They took you from me, baby. But I swear to you, I'll take their lies from them." Outside, the chants grew louder, echoing into the night. And somewhere in the heart of Hollywood, powerful men who once thought they were the night after the FBI press conference, the streets were alive. Not with celebration, not with relief, but with rage and grief. Hundreds gathered outside Malcolm's childhood home, holding candles, signs, and each other. The chant of justice for Malcolm rose into the cold air like a storm that refused to. Past mothers wept into their children's hair. Strangers embraced as if they'd known each other for years, united by the same heartbreak. In the middle of the crowd stood Pamela Warner, a woman who had buried her only son, now standing taller than she had in years. Her eyes were red, not from tears, but from fire. In one hand, she held the photograph of Malcolm as a boy. In the other, she held the printed FBI texts. She stepped forward to the microphone someone had set up on the porch. The crowd quieted instantly. Her voice was low, steady, but each word hit like a hammer. "My son stood by Bill Cosby when the whole world turned against him. He called him a friend, a father figure. And now I know that same man planned his death. So hear me clearly tonight. I will not be quiet. I will not be polite. I will not rest until every single person involved in this is behind bars." The crowd roared. Tears streaked the faces of people who had never met Malcolm, but felt like they'd known him their whole lives. The next morning, the leaks began. Someone no one knew who sent encrypted files to every major news outlet. They contained bank transfers, email chains, and call logs. The amounts were staggering. $500,000 wired to an independent consultant in Costa Rica. $200,000 to a private security contractor 2 days before. Malcolm's death and one chilling email from a law firm. Ensure Warner remains in country until further notice. Silence is non-negotiable. The news cycle exploded. Cosby's lawyers refused to comment, but the silence only made things worse. Hashtags went from hashtag #JusticeFormal to hashtag Cosby killed him. And then came the voicemail. It was late evening when an independent journalist posted the 15-second audio clip. To social media, the voice was unmistakable, slow, deep, authoritative. Take care of him. I don't care how. Just make sure he's quiet. The post hit 1 million views in under an hour. By midnight, every major network was running it on repeat. In a dimly lit podcast studio, a man in a hoodie and baseball cap agreed to speak. His voice was altered, his face hidden in shadow. I was hired to follow Malcolm. He began not to protect him, to follow him, track him, report everything. Day he died, I got the call. Stand down, it's taken care of. I thought they meant scare him. I didn't think. His voice cracked. Kay couldn't finish the sentence. The host leaned forward. Did you know it was coming? I paused. I should have, but I didn't want to believe they'd really kill him. The clip went viral overnight. People started showing up outside Cosby's mansion holding signs that read, "We know the truth." Pamela didn't hide. She did the opposite. She appeared on national TV, her voice trembling but unwavering. My son called me 2 hours before he died. He told me, if something happened, I should keep fighting. He told me not to believe the news. I recorded that call and I will play it in court. The host asked her if she feared for her own safety. She smiled bitterly. They already took the only thing they could use to hurt me. Now I'm just dangerous. To them, by the end of the week, the FBI officially charged Cosby. The courtroom was packed beyond capacity. Journalists, celebrities, everyday people. All desperate to see the man who had once been America's dad now standing trial for murder. Pamela entered in all black, her son's face pinned to her chest. She didn't look at Cosby as she passed him. He didn't look at her either. The prosecution began with the texts. Each one was displayed on a massive screen. Gasps echoed through the room as the jury read the words. Then came the bank transfers, then the email. But the room truly changed when the prosecution played Malcolm's final video. There he was alive, but already knowing he was running out of time. His voice shook. If you're watching this, I didn't. They're going to say it was an accident. It wasn't. I found out things I shouldn't have, and they're coming for me. Pamela covered her face. Jurors wiped their eyes. Cosby sat stone-faced. The prosecutor let the silence hang before hitting. Play on the next recording, the voicemail. Cosby's voice filled the courtroom. Take care of him. I don't care how, just make sure he's quiet. It was as if the air had been punched out of the room. Pamela stood suddenly, pointing straight at Cosby. That's you. That's your voice. You killed my son. The judge banged the gavel, calling for order, but the damage was done. Every person in that room, every person watching from home, had just heard it for themselves. Outside, the crowd swelled. Screens set up on the street replayed the moment again and again. Strangers hugged each other, sobbing. Little girl no older than 10 clutched a poster of Malcolm from his sitcom days and whispered to her mother, "Why would he hurt Malcolm?" Her mother didn't answer. She couldn't. Inside, the prosecutor closed the day session with a line that would be quoted around the world. The truth doesn't drown. You can hold it underwater. You can bury it under lies, but it will rise. And when it does, it will destroy those who feared it most. Pamela walked out of the courthouse into the sea of supporters. They handed her flowers, photos, letters. Someone gave her a single white rose. She held it close to her chest and said quietly, "This is for you, baby. Told you I'd never stop." As the sun set, the crowd began chanting again, Not just for justice, but for something deeper. For the end of a lie that had been sold to them for decades. And in that moment, it wasn't just about Malcolm anymore. It was about every voice that had ever been silenced, every truth that had been buried. The trial had only just begun, but the tide had already turned. The final day of the trial was like the eye of a hurricane, calm on the surface. But every single person in that courthouse could feel the storm about to rip through, the line outside wrapped around the block. People camped overnight just for the chance to witness history. News crews from every continent had set up their cameras. The hum of generators mixing with the low murmur of a crowd that had been waiting far too long for this moment. Inside, Pamela Warner sat in the front row, dressed in black, her son's photograph pressed against her heart. To her right, Malcolm's teenage daughter clung to her aunt's hand, eyes locked on the floor. She hadn't spoken to the media once. Her silence said more than any interview ever could. Asterisk across the aisle. Bill Cosby sat in his chair like a statue, his hands folded, his eyes expressionless. The man who had once been America's dad now waited to hear if the world would officially name him something else entirely. A murderer. The judge entered. Everyone rose. Then it began. The foreman of the jury stood, holding the folded verdict slip in trembling fingers. The judge's voice was even on the charge of conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree. How do you find the defendant? The pause felt like hours. Then came the words that sent a ripple through the room and crossed the globe. Guilty, gasps, cries, the sound of 1,000 emotions breaking open all at once. Pamela's hands shot to her face. She didn't collapse. She didn't scream. She exhaled a long, shaking breath she had been holding for years. Her daughter buried her face into her aunt's shoulder and sobbed. Cosby didn't move, not a flinch. A blink. But the weight in the room shifted. He was no longer untouchable. The gavel came down, sealing his fate. Outside, the verdict spread like fire. The chants grew deafening. Justice for Malcolm. Justice for Malcolm. Crowds in New York, Los Angeles, London, and even Costa Rica erupted. Strangers hugged strangers. Candles were lit. In Harlem, a massive mural of Malcolm's face was unveiled. The words, "He spoke the truth," painted in gold beneath it. News anchors across the world broke down in tears as they read the verdict live. Hashtags like #TheTruthOne and #Cosby guilty dominated every feed. But inside that courtroom, one final act remained. Pamela's statement. She rose slowly, the photograph of Malcolm still in her hand. The judge nodded, giving her the floor. The room went silent. Her voice trembled at first, but each word grew stronger. When I got the call from Costa Rica, they told me it was an accident. They told me my son had drowned. But I knew my son. He could swim. He knew how to stay alive. What he couldn't survive was betrayal. My son loved a man who called himself his father, and that man planned his death. She turned to face Cosby directly. Bill, you looked at my boy like he was family. He defended you when no one else would, and you thanked him with fear, with silence, with murder. You didn't just kill my son. You killed the trust of every person who ever believed in you. People in the gallery began to weep openly. Pamela took a deep breath. I don't want revenge. I want the truth. And now the world has it. Malcolm didn't die in the water. He was taken from us because he refused to stay quiet. But here's the thing about truth, Bill. It doesn't drown. It floats, it rises, and now so will his name. She turned back to the judge. This verdict is not the end, it's the beginning. I will make sure every piece of Malcolm's work, every file, every word he left behind sees the light of day. And I will do it so no one else's child has to die to tell the truth. When she stepped down, the entire courtroom, even the jury, stood in silent respect. The next 48 hours shook the entertainment industry. Two major networks pulled all Cosby-related content. Studios issued public apologies for years of silence. Former co-stars admitted they had ignored signs. Congress announced hearings into how networks protect powerful predators. Malcolm's memoir, completed by his team, was released. Within a week, it became the fastest-selling nonfiction book in history. His final video message uploaded officially to his family's page was watched over 600 million times in 7 days. Comments poured in from people in every language saying the same thing. "We hear you, Malcolm. We believe you." On what would have been his 55th birthday, a statue was unveiled outside the studio where he had first made America laugh. But it wasn't the smiling boy next door from TV. It was Malcolm, the truth teller, holding a microphone in one hand and a broken chain in the other. Pamela and her granddaughter stood side by side at the ceremony. The girl leaned in and whispered, "You did it. Daddy, you won." Pamela smiled through her tears. As the crowd sang his name, rain began to fall soft, steady, like the sky itself was crying. Pamela looked up, then back at the crowd and raised her voice one last time. "They killed my son, but they couldn't kill his truth. And now that truth belongs to all of us." The crowd roared, the cameras rolled, and the story of Malcolm Jamal Warner, the man they tried to erase, became impossible to forget. Because in the end, it wasn't just about one man's death. It was about every voice silenced by power, every truth buried under money and lies, and the movement that rose when one mother refused to let her son's story die. And in that moment, the silence was not just broken, it was gone forever. If you've made it this far, you're not just a viewer. You're a witness. You've heard the tapes. You've seen the messages. You felt the weight of a mother's pain and a daughter's silence. And now you know Malcolm Jamal Warner didn't just die. He was taken. His life stolen in the shadows to protect monsters who thought they were untouchable. But the truth is out now. And here's the thing about truth. It only survives if we protect it. Don't let this be another story the world forgets in a week. Don't let them bury his name under headlines, distractions, and lies. If you believe in justice, real justice, then do something about it. Share this video everywhere. Let your voice join the millions already shouting justice for Malcolm in every language, in every country. Drop his name in the comments so the algorithms can't ignore him. Tell the world you believe him. Tell the world you believe Pamela because they tried to erase him. They tried to make sure his last words never reached you, but they failed because now you've heard them. And that makes you part of this fight. The fight isn't over. The trial may be done, but the movement is just beginning. And movements are built on people who refuse to be silent. Be that person. Stand up, speak out. Make sure that when they write the history of this moment, they remember that we didn't scroll past. We acted. They killed him, but they couldn't kill the truth. Now, it's in your hands. Don't let it die.